This is exactly what the Bucs needed. There's some great news that the Buccaneers are planning to play some star players within the first 4 weeks. They are not going to be held out for during that period or longer like we were anticipating. So we've got some awesome news to break down here. I'm Sebastian with Buccaneers Digest. Welcome back, guys. Make sure to subscribe. 95% of y'all are not subscribed, but that's okay. All you have to do is hit the bell, hit the button, and join the Bucs Digest. Also, happy Mike Evans' birthday. It's a national holiday. Obviously, no one should be working. We know. I think Mike had the day off today. Today was the last day of training camp, and he very deservedly had the day off. So happy birthday to Mike Evans. But and even better news, this is a great present for Mike Evans. We have some awesome news coming out of Adam Schefter himself. He had to say that the Buccaneers are planning to activate wide receiver Chris Godwin off the physically unable to perform list and have him on the 53-man roster to start the season, but only to begin his ramp-up process for games, not to immediately play in them. Godwin still is unlikely to play until October as he continues recovering from the fractured ankle he suffered in Week 7 versus the Ravens last season. He's expected to start practicing in Week 2, but the team thinks he is right where he should be at this time and is pleased with his recovery. And then obviously he also mentions that Tristan Wirfs is also they're planning to not place him on the PUP list, the physically unable to perform list, because they're also planning to play him hopefully by week 4, which is a pretty notable game. If Bucs fans know that we are facing the Eagles in Tampa for that game, and it's a big one, obviously. The Eagles notoriously have struggled against the Buccaneers, and but just because we've beaten them in the past is no guarantee we'll beat them this year, and we want to be as in full strength as much as possible to face these guys, because they're the best team in the league right now for a reason. They pummeled the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, which was awesome to see. But we also want to show that we belong, that we're Super Bowl contenders by beating them, and having Wirfs and Godwin for that game would be monumental. It would be massive, and this is really relieving, because a lot of Bucs fans, me included, we've all been kind of left in the air, wondering, okay, all signs are pointing to that they're going to be on the PUP list, which means they'll be out for the first 4 games and not able to practice for the first 4 weeks. And then who knows how much longer after that it'll take for them to heal or play. So it really, we were hoping maybe by week 5, week 6, all these different things. But now it's like, oh, okay, they're not even placing them on either of them on the PUP list. This means that they'll start practicing during week 2, which is when Godwin is planning to start practicing again, so that they'll be in football shape come time for week 4 for the Eagles game. If they didn't think that we could get them for the Eagles game, they would be on the PUP list. So this is just great timing and just great news, because that's one of the games where it's like, oh boy, there's some games before where depth can maybe save us. We can help beat the Falcons, we can beat the Texans, we can beat the Jets with what we have. But the Eagles, that's another kind of monster, obviously. And just because Todd Bowles is defensively able to do a lot against Jalen Hurts and that offense doesn't guarantee he'll do it again, nor does it mean that our offense will be able to keep up with the Eagles, and because they have a vaunted defense just as well. So this is just a massive boost to morale. Greg Allman out of Tampa Bay Times had to say, for the Bucs, carrying Godwin and Wirfs on the initial 53 will mean having to cut 2 more players, so that makes tough roster decisions more difficult, not only within positions, but deciding where to keep depth, complicated by several short-term injuries. So what he's talking about here is the fact that, okay, Wirfs will be on the roster. He'll count as one of the 53 players on the roster. That means, though, that a player that we would have used as a depth piece during those 4 weeks, if he was on the PUP list, will not be on the team. He will not be a player on the sidelines during those games who we can use to help if anything were to happen during those games. And so that's where things get a little dicey, and roster cuts now are going to become even more strict. The breathing room that some guys are pushing to try and make the roster, like these fringe players who are really like on the outside looking in might be stuck on the outside because they, now Chris Godwin and Wirfs are taking up two of those spots in that initial 53-man roster in the first 4 weeks, despite them maybe not even playing for the first 3 weeks. So that's just something to acknowledge, is that we might be short 2 extra guys in the first 3 games. So we just got to really watch out for injuries. That's something the Bucs have struggled with, especially at the beginning of seasons. It's just staying healthy. We come out playing really strong and really hard, and that tends to bite us a little bit because these guys don't know how to hold themselves back and preserve themselves. It's a marathon, not a sprint, as Tom Brady would like to say. And Baker's going to need these guys. That's just kind of the name of the game, is that we're the depth that is, and Wirfs and Godwin. It's I think is worth keeping them on the roster for the sake of being there for the Eagles game. But it's just one of these things that with that comes a cost. It's not just like, like they're on the roster and that doesn't affect anything else. No, it does. It does mean that 2 other guys who could be great depth pieces won't be on the team, which is a little frustrating. Greg Allman also had to say, I would argue that if you think Godwin or Wirfs could play in week 4, 1 week of either of them is more valuable than 4 weeks of whoever makes the 53 in their place and is likely a healthy scratch if Godwin and Wirfs are on the PUP. So that's kind of what I'm talking about, is that, like, how do you balance this? Do you think is it better to have Godwin and Wirfs for that Eagles game, or is it better to have 2 extra guys, depth pieces, whether it's at receiver, whether it's an offensive lineman, defensive player, etc., having like an extra piece, 2 extra pieces there, but no Godwin and Wirfs in week 4? That's the trade-off there. And so that's just kind of like a good question to ask yourself. I agree with Greg that I think it's worth it to have those 2 guys ready for week 4 to practice earlier and have them ready for the season. So I like this move that the Buccaneers are making. We'll have our guys earlier. That means that we'll have to play a little tighter in the first few weeks and try and keep ourselves as healthy as possible, while also obviously trying to win games. You never want to like sacrifice safety for. Well, there's a balance of safety and winning. That's what I'm trying to say. And then also Matt Matera at a Pewter Report had to say the Bucs wanted to ease Godwin back into the lineup after coming off of his dislocated ankle injury. They had plenty of depth to buy him all the time he needed at the beginning, but a severe neck strain to Jalen McMillan in the second preseason game makes Godwin's return a bit more important. McMillan is expected to be out until Tampa Bay's bye week in Week 9. They don't want to rush Godwin back, but they could also use his production. So that's the thing, is like we have depth at receiver, but at the same time, it's like now that McMillan's gone, we're going to be relying on Evans, who has been Mr. Reliable, Mr. Consistency, and then a rookie with Emeka Egbuka, who looks like a stud. He looks fantastic. He'll probably be making a push for Offensive Rookie of the Year, especially with the amount of targets he'll be getting in this first 9 weeks with McMillan out, and then with Godwin trying to ease back into the lineup. But Godwin is a vet. He's a pro. To have him going up against the defending Super Bowl champs would be massive. I wouldn't want it any other way. His return will be epic. That game will be epic. I'm just really proud of him, and I'm just glad to hear that his recovery is going well. We obviously don't want to rush it, but players sometimes have to be protected from themselves. They have to be like, okay, listen, I want to be on the field as soon as possible. I don't care about my injury. I don't care about my health. I want to be there for my team. But other guys are like, listen, we don't want you to hurt yourself trying to get back on the field sooner. We have to make sure that you are good to go so that, one, you're not a liability to the team by being like a guy who's limping out there trying to do his best. But 2, like, you don't hurt yourself either. We want you for the long term. That's why we signed you to another 3-year deal. This is about making sure that this, but you're going to be around for as many games as possible. But at the same time, Godwin rises up to these big moments. He was part of that Super Bowl team. He's one of the reasons why Tom Brady came to Tampa. He's one of the reasons why Baker Mayfield loves this team. He is one of the friendliest quarterback receivers that there is. No ego, just like all the other receivers on this team, and is just all about doing whatever he can. He's a great blocker, an incredible route runner, and just I still think the best hands on the team. I love Mike Evans, but man, anything in Godwin's vicinity, he's just clutch. One of the most clutch third down receivers, especially last year before he got hurt. So that's all going to be so crucial, and I am just really just excited to just see his progress, starting what they're saying in week 2 when he's going to be practicing. Wirfs, we're not exactly sure if he'll be practicing like at the same time. My guess is yes. Offensive linemen and receivers obviously train a little bit differently. It's a different skill set. But, it looks like the intention is to get both of them back for week 4, which is like, golly, what an upgrade. I mean, these are two of the best players at their respective positions coming in to face the Eagles. It doesn't get more big than that. And, the beginning of October is really where things like in the Bucs season in the past few years kind of start to fall apart. We have strong September, strong starts, and then things start to fall apart. So the Bucs will need to start strong, but also just be able to maintain themselves and make sure that fall off doesn't happen again. Our strength of schedule is much harder in the first half. Once again, a little easier in the second half. We'll see how that adjusts as the teams start to figure themselves out, whether they're good, whether they're bad. Things always change regarding strength of schedule and all that stuff, but at the same time, it's just as we're looking at it right now, we're going to need Godwin and Wirfs for the really tough stretch in the middle of the schedule. And I'm excited. I'm thrilled. I think it's worth it. But I want to ask you guys, what do you think about the news that Wirfs and Godwin are looking to be coming back for the Week 4 game against the Eagles, are not going to be placed on the PUP list? Are you happy? Are you excited? Would you rather us, have them on the PUP list and then wait for them to come back in Week 5? And then use those 2 extra roster spots for depth, which is because we know the Buccaneers have injury history. Our safeties are already looking pretty shallow. With Tyke Smith having an injury now and all that stuff? Or do you think this risk is worth it, having them on the roster and having them ready for a big game against the Eagles? My guess is most of y'all will say the Eagles, but feel free to disagree. Feel free to say, no, we need those 2 extra spots. And just let me know down below in the comments. Make sure to subscribe, and I will keep y'all updated as we go along. And training camp just is wrapping up. They'll keep practicing, obviously, but that is the end of the training camp. Roster cuts are coming up. We'll get Desmond Watson news, Shiloh Sanders news. The preseason game 3 is on Saturday night. I will be at that game watching it, and then I'll be reporting soon after all my thoughts and observations from the game, and then we'll start doing live streams for regular season games and all that good stuff. It's literally right here. We're making a push to 2,000 subscribers. Let's keep rising the ranks here. We're already doing a great job, but I just anyone who's watching, please subscribe because I'm doing daily content. I want y'all to stay updated on all things Buccaneers. I'm just really happy to be building a community here with just a lot of awesome Bucs fans here with us already. So stay tuned. I will see y'all in the next video.